Right here tonight at 5 o'clock, they've been searching for him for days now. A 72-year-old man, once convicted of murder, is missing after leaving a halfway house. It's our top story at 5 o'clock. Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us. I'm Doug Proffitt.
And I'm Connie Leonard. State police issued a silver alert for Roger Caldwell, who hasn't been seen since 8:30 Friday morning in Scottsburg. Now, police say he could require medical assistance and may be a danger to himself and to the public. Caldwell was released from prison earlier this year after spending decades behind bars for a 1996 murder conviction.
A jury then found Caldwell guilty of shooting a groundskeeper at a Boy Scout camp in Charlestown, Indiana. He was also deemed mentally ill. An upset Scott County, Indiana Sheriff Jerry Gooden today telling us he's not sure why Caldwell was recently released to the Oxford House. That's an addiction recovery facility in Charlestown.
It bothers me that we have to be looking for this guy. Now we have no idea where he's at. We've got obviously all the agencies in Scott County, all the surrounding agencies, police agencies, are looking for Roger Caldwell. And yeah, I'm just a little bit perturbed about, the situation.
Caldwell is said to be about 6 feet 2 inches tall, 221 pounds, with gray hair and blue eyes. He was last seen wearing a gray shirt and blue pants.
Well, also in Scottsburg, an overnight fire at an apartment complex destroys 11 units and leaves multiple tenants without a roof over their head. Reports of that fire came in around 2:30 this morning at the National Apartments on West Cherry Street. That's right across the road from a fire station. Now, crews told us that complex had 11 apartments and 9 of them were occupied. Thankfully, everyone was able to get out safely before that building began to collapse. The building was previously used as a tire store before being converted into an apartment complex. The Red Cross is helping those residents who are displaced.
Now to the growing debate over data. The Louisville Metro Council voting for a review of data center regulations today. These are the massive warehouses for computer equipment powering technology like artificial intelligence.
And concerns over how much water and electricity these data centers consume sparked the move happening now after a data center is moving in to Southwest Louisville.
WHAS11's Ian Hardwood explains what's on the horizon as Metro Louisville expects data center expansion.
The Planning Committee's vote just starts the process for developing data center regulations here in Louisville. Currently, the city has next to none, but the Planning Commission will be looking towards peer cities like Phoenix, Arizona for inspiration. They recently passed limits on how much power can be drawn from the grid, fire risk assessments, and noise limits for data centers.
I love green. I love growth.
Kathy Little prefers the growth of her petunias to the data center going up 3 miles away on Campground Road. She worries about how much water it consumes to cool off, but also about the fire risks when it heats up.
Because once it's in there, it's going to be a total hell, total hell around here. So just because it's cheap, it might not be the right place.
By October 2026, local developer Poe Company said the warehouse full of computers will be humming along. At full capacity, it'll consume about 400,000 homes worth of energy, nearly as much as all Louisville residents. The company said the center will bring more than 1,000 jobs to the city, but did not say how many will be permanent jobs once construction wraps up. In a statement, Poe's president Hank Hillebrand wrote, quote, "This multi-billion-dollar investment is also on track to deliver tens of millions in annual recurring tax revenues, a significant portion of which will directly support public schools." But the project does receive tax breaks from the state of Kentucky. Practically all the computing equipment inside can be purchased tax-free. Metro Councilman Kevin Bratcher voted for the tax breaks as a former state representative, but also for Louisville's local regulatory review.
We didn't want to be left behind, and so that was the urgency to cut that tax break for them to come here. However, now that they are wanting to be here, we got to make sure we know where to put them and how they're going to affect the neighborhood.
The unanimous vote puts the Office of Planning in charge of drafting new rules.
What we are starting to see more in the world is that these data centers are becoming larger and larger.
And with that growth comes controversy. In Louisville, Ian Hardwick, WHAS11 on your side.
And the city's planning office will have a draft of the data center regulations available for public review by late November. A full council vote then is expected in January.
Brand new here at 5 o'clock, a judge closing one of Jamie Knowles' two large civil cases today, facing the former sheriff, ordering the former Clark County, Indiana sheriff to pay back $918,000. That's right, just shy of $1 million. The Attorney General's office is asking for even more. WHAS11 was the only TV station in the courtroom, and Focus reporter Travis Breeze is telling us why Knowles' attorneys are asking for relief.
Jamie Knowles' attorneys say that their client already has a substantial penalty, including his 12-year prison sentence and $3 million in restitution just in the criminal case. They say to impose too much more would be, quote, heartless.
He's going to step out of prison a pauper whose only skill set is to carry a gun, which he will never do again, and to be a law enforcement officer, which he will never be again.
Jamie Knowles' attorney Larry Wilder arguing his client has already turned his life upside down and sold everything he owns after pleading guilty last August. The proceeds from those sales will fund his restitution and lawsuit settlements. Judge Roger Duvall sided with the Attorney General's office Tuesday, ordering Knowles to repay $918,000 for financial crimes as sheriff, including misusing the jail commissary. This represents the closing of one of his two major lawsuits. The AG's office says it's entitled to treble damages, or triple the amount, up to $2.5 million.
We do believe that a treble damage award is not only proper under the law, but in this particular case, necessary given what Mr. Knowles did.
Judge Duvall will make his ruling on any treble damages over a written order in the coming weeks. In Jeffersonville, Travis Breeze, WHAS 11 on your side.
Well, even though Judge Duvall entered a judgment today for close to $1 million, all of Knowles' money is still being gathered into one account, and it's unclear when the first payment will be made.
Well, I told Mallory earlier it's hard to complain about this weather, right? Because it's been pretty nice.
You don't need to complain.
It's a little warm.
It is amazing. It is amazing September weather, and for the folks at Louder Than Life, that's great because they had a bit of a hurricane they had to deal with in the past there, Mallory, and now it's going to be hot and clear.
Yeah, no remnants of Helene this year. That's some good news there. We've been drying things out around here, and this pattern really will take us through at least the first half of the weekend. We're taking that live look outside from our Hughes and Coleman Shriners Children's camera here over downtown Louisville. We've had more high clouds around today, but not enough to really keep us cool. We're still dealing with temperatures in the upper 80s, right around 90 degrees. It's 89 at both airports, 87 in Fern Creek, 89 in Valley Station, 88 currently in Shepherdsville. And most of Kentuckiana is seeing a similar trend here. Temperatures in the mid to upper 80s and a few low 90s kind of sprinkled in there this evening. Current dew points, those remain tolerable. We have dew points in the 50s to lower 60s, so humidity not all too bad. That makes a big difference when we're dealing with above normal high temperatures. So thankfully, no heat index to worry about, but with the sunshine, with the heat, we still do have an air quality alert in place. This has been extended now through tomorrow night. It includes the Louisville metro area and southern Indiana. This is due to high ozone. So if you are part of a sensitive group, you may want to limit your time outdoors during the afternoon and the evening hours. Staying pretty quiet this evening. Temperatures will drop into the 70s. Once that sun does set, we'll have overnight lows dip down into the 60s, maybe some 50s outside of the city. And then tomorrow, mostly sunny, another warm day. High temperature right around that 90-degree mark with a light breeze coming in. I'll let you know when some rain chances will return to the forecast. That's coming up in a few minutes, guys.
Mallory, thank you. The race to replace retiring U.S. Senator Mitch McConnell has a new candidate now, the second Democrat now in this race. Kentucky Democrat Logan Forsythe launched his campaign today. Forsythe is a personal injury lawyer living in Lexington, but he grew up in far western Kentucky. He's new to politics, but not to Washington. Forsythe served for years as a Secret Service special agent under Presidents Obama, Trump, and Joe Biden. He talked about his experience with our Isaiah Kim Martinez in his first television interview.
Everyone I worked with, we had different beliefs outside of it. We would disagree personally, but when it came time to do a job, everyone did the job. You trusted the other person with your life. You had to.
Lyon County, Kentucky, again, rural western Kentucky. He tells us his biggest priority, if elected, would be to roll back federal funding cuts to Medicaid and SNAP programs. He gave WHAS11 his first TV interview, and we'll have that for you coming up tonight at 6. So here we go so far. Forsyth is the second Democrat in Kentucky's U.S. Senate race. State House Democratic leader Pamela Stephenson of Louisville is also running for U.S. Senate. The high-profile Republicans in this race are the former Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron, Kentucky Congressman Andy Barr, and Lexington businessman Nate Morris. The primary election is next May.
New today, the Louisville Metro Health Department has released its suicide fatality report, and that report highlights critical trends and risk factors in suicide deaths from 2019 to 2023, and the report notes a 24% increase in Jefferson County deaths by suicide since 2020, with men accounting for 80% of fatalities from 2020 to 2023. And suicide deaths among African Americans were also found to have risen by 127% from 2020 to 2022, with deaths among Hispanic and Latino groups doubling from 2019 to 2022. Geneva Robinson with 7 counties says if you aren't directly able to help someone with suicidal thoughts, being able to connect them with resources could be life-saving.
There are so many resources available in our community that you don't have to learn how to fix it. What you need to learn to do is to be able to connect folks with resources that can help them where they are. And when you're able to offer somebody help, what you give them is hope. And hope is what makes the biggest difference between whether someone goes ahead and carries through on a suicide attempt, or they realize that there are other options for them to feel better.
And of course, if you or a loved one are struggling, you can call the U.S. Suicide Prevention Hotline, that number 988, to receive assistance.
One of the nation's largest nonprofit care providers breaking ground in Louisville today, marking the first standalone hospice care center in the city. Hospice Health Chairwoman Kathy Zion spoke about the project's intended effect on families who need it the most.
This project is not just construction, it is really about building a legacy, one that ensures that patients and families experience compassion, dignity, and peace during life's most difficult times.
The $13.2 million hospice care center is primarily funded through philanthropy and donor support. It's set to include 21 private patient suites, family gathering areas, a chapel, and outdoor spaces. Construction is expected to begin alongside Hospice Health's recently opened Harshaw Family Grief Counseling Center later this fall. Hospice Health intends to bring inpatient care and grief support together in one centralized campus by having the two centers so close to one another.
Still to come, the sentencing in the Crystal Rogers case for Brooks Houck and Joseph Lawson happens tomorrow. We're taking a look ahead of the sentencing.
And ahead, FBI Director Kash Patel is being slammed by Democrats on Capitol Hill. The concerns they have about his handling of the agency and the investigation into Charlie Kirk's murder.
And here's a check of today's Kentucky Lottery jackpots. Mega Millions, $400 million. Powerball, $81 million.
The Kentucky Lottery.